And abracadabra. All right, so welcome, internets, once again to another Paradigm Shift Radio After Party Hangout. So everyone here, say hello to the internet. So hi, internets. Woo!
Ah! I'm like running away.
All right, so we'll just sort of, I guess we can continue with a lot of the conversation that was happening in this episode related to awareness of world issues. Joel was on the show with us, and he brought up some good points, but maybe just kind of going around in no particular order, what did you guys take from the show tonight? Maybe starting off with Mark, since you were
Oh
expressing.
no, 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 no! You're not going to
Yeah,
get
we'll
that.
start off with Mark, and then no, you don't have to. I
I,
mean, you were talking about it a second ago.
well, okay. Let me get back there for just. Oh, hi there. How are you? Gosh, man, thank you, Brendan, for creating such a beautiful space, and thank you all for being you, because in the last month and tonight in particular, this show, the now, what I've received in my spirit goes so deep that I don't have the words to describe it, but I'll try. And when I tuned in, I showed up late. I'd been at Cade of Gaia and for the rollover, and when I joined the call, joined your table, Joel was speaking. And I was just sat in awe and in admiration, that he spoke so eloquently to the other caller and helping them to understand exactly who they are, showing them, and the best that we can do with language, you know. And so I just, that's the first thing that really caught me. And then that beautiful spirit harmony, and what a perfect name for uh, that beautiful spirit, and she arrived here tonight, and as we know, it was no coincidence, and so as the scales fall from your eyes, magic begins to happen, and that's what I've been experiencing for the last month. So I'm high, okay. I'm high on life. I was listening to The Hills Are Alive, the sound of music, during your show for a little bit.
Appropriate.
Yeah, so I'm just excited to be alive. It's like I'm a newborn baby, and everything's new. The show tonight, just, it wasn't all the words. One thing that kept coming to my mind was my mother asked me early on this month. She said, "Have you lost your mind?" And I said, as a matter of fact, I have, and I found my heart. And so yeah, I'm just enjoying it, you guys. Who's next?
It's true. Yeah, Mark, you're reflecting for me what I got to experience today. Like what you found is that camaraderie and community, whether it's digital or physical. Community is still community wherever we feel that sense of family and acceptance, openness, encouragement to
Right.
be who we are, just to be accepted and encouraged to be more at our own leisure. And today, I have to admit, it's been a while since I've sort of gotten my feet out to sort of be more involved with something. And I joined this men's group that is hosted here down in Toronto at a yoga studio. And I didn't know what I was going to be walking into, but it was beautiful. It was like a mini community in a way with one of the organizers of it. He's a musician, and he was playing crystal bowls for us, and we were encouraged to come in with some percussion and chanting, and so that was just to and then having done that for a little while, it took me like a few minutes to kind of get into the flow of it and to realize that when people come together, you start to find power within yourself that you have forgotten was there. So that it's so, I think, understated and almost ill-used if we don't use this camaraderie and this community
Well,
to
may
to
I
build
just
them.
interject? May I just interject for just a moment because everything you're saying is resonating with me on such a deep level. As a matter of fact, my spirit spoke to me today and said, that I should have a bonfire ceremony, and I should invite all friends, family, and neighbors especially, and get my community
Hmm.
together and connect. Yeah.
Mark, you just cut out.
Oh, what happened?
You're good. It's
But
fixed
you're
now.
back.
Did you want to continue, Mark?
Okay, no, I'm good. Sorry about that. It started playing. I had no control. So, um, no, I think I said what I wanted to say. Is get connecting in this physical realm and sharing. Sharing is caring, right?
Mhm. So just anybody else who was tuned into the episode, what did you guys get out of that episode, or what are some things that maybe we didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about some more?
If no one's going to speak, I have something I wanted to touch upon
Hmm.
about what Joel said about registering names and the whole birth certificate thing, but I'm not sure if that's sort of on topic, if that's
Well, was that what you were going
valid
to
to
bring
the
up?
prompt or whatever, if there is a prompt.
Was that what you were
Yeah,
going
that
to
was
talk
what I was going to
about?
bring up when I called in.
Oh, by all means,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. So basically, if just bring it back and refresh it into people's minds. Joel was mentioning how birth certificates, driver licenses, basically anything registering your so-called identity within the system is a way for the system to take away your power. There's two things I sort of like to touch upon on that whole idea. It's pretty valid in a sense, but what I'm trying to find is like, what are alternatives to that? Like, I'm living in America, and this system is a way to be able to move fluidly throughout the whole framework of what America is, what society is. So, if we could talk about like what are alternatives to it, and also I'd like to mention about or taken away from you. Personally, I just find it's all how do I articulate this? It's all mental in a sense. They can't take away any power from you because they don't own that power. You're the one supplying that power. So when you start disidentifying with, let's say, your birth certificate, with your driver license, you're not really giving away any power. You're just using that as a tool to be able to circumnavigate the system you're currently residing in. You don't have to view it as a bad thing, but if you do, that's when you start uh, uh, sense because
Okay,
it's all about right now.
Narek, you're cutting out there. Is that just me or is
Yeah, I was cutting out.
no. Okay, so I I got a better idea. Is that when you guys talking about like an alternative to this society?
Andy, we can't hear you.
Alright, can you guys hear me better?
A little better.
Alright, I do. Alright, so the key thing about finding an alternative society is that I don't know if you remember Joyous.
Joy's
Joyous,
presence.
yeah.
Hmm.
I I actually had a friend that he has befriended. His name is Josh. He actually created an alternative society where it is based off of like just free exchange of different areas. Like if I were to work for you and give counseling to certain amount of people, then you will in return give me like you can repair my house, you can do whatever you want, just as long as you do something in exchange.
Hmm.
And that's how his society works. And he's planning to implement it like 3 or 4 years down the road. Like he's planning to implement it in Puerto Rico, and I'm he said that I'm invited to actually basically
So, Andy, are you able to speak up a bit? Like, I know you're
yeah.
whispering.
I know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, yeah.
So yeah, it's like that's what I meant. Is that you, that's what like one of the societies you have to create is learning how to do it out of exchange and not doing it just like out of the living. Because the thing is like that's how even our rent, for example. Let's take that one. Is that if you were to keep getting a job just to pay out your rent, that how many of you think that's sickening to you? Because to me,
Yeah.
I'm already sick and tired of paying $600 a month on those shit.
Yeah, it's a vicious
Especially,
cycle.
You're
yeah,
right.
especially,
And I don't remember who said this, but it was such a beautiful quote, and I think you'll like it, Andy. It's that we were born into this world free. There was nothing asked of us to pay entry into being born, and then to enter into some human facsimile where now suddenly you have to pay to be here. If you actually stop and think about that, that's insane. It's an insane
it
concept
is.
because no other
Yeah,
species on this planet does that.
exactly, dude. Like, this is what I need to tell you. Is that, okay, I don't know if Deanna's here, but she said that in our past lives, like, this is one of the reasons why I just don't get used to living in this society, is that thousands of years ago, like, me and Deanna, we lived a society where we don't even have to pay rent. We just had, we can we can get our own food just by going out to nature and like hunt and gather, and that's it, you know? Like, that's the society that both Deanna and I live in our past lives, but it wasn't until like around the early 1800s when like society becomes more urbanized. That's when
Dominant. I would say dominant.
it's like it's ridiculous. Like my girlfriend has to live under like her parents' roof. I had to live under my parents' roof, and sometimes like paying the ridiculous rent. And I was like, dude, what the hell? I mean, how did I pay $600 for this crap? It's just not doesn't make any sense. I don't remember having to live like this, and yet my parents are telling me to man up. I was like, Mom, Dad, you know better than that. We're born free men. Is this how we live?
So I mean, just kind of maybe even stepping back to like the whole Ebola thing, because I mean, we didn't really, we could have went deeper into it, but I mean,
Oh my god.
state the obvious. Okay, like I'll just sort of put out an idea and then we'll bounce some ideas around, sort of see what consensus we can gather. I agree that if I was like Cobra Commander and I was like trying to like make use of an opportunity, then yes, like a moment where Ebola may be an issue on the world stage would be a moment where you can be like, ah, yes, I'll use this to create fear within the people and then propagate more control over them or something. And
That was
use
pretty
my
good.
weather machine, ah! Or whatever, you know. But I mean, like, it seems like it is a prime opportunity to use fear tactics. And I guess my question is that what is happening, or is that almost just like a side effect
Okay.
of like our mainstream media habits and also like our social reaction to things, where like it's not even someone's actually trying to make us fear it, it's like we as a society are like, oh my god, you know, and we're just freaking out.
Okay, Skull. I think I know where
I think
you're
it's the
going through this.
Hegelian dialectic.
Hold on, actually, let's hear what was that. Narek? Who is that?
That was Michael.
That was
That was
Michael.
Michael.
Let's hear what Michael has to say. Just because Andy, your volume's kind of low, and it's just I
Okay,
know.
so
Oh, hey, what's
Alright.
up, everybody?
hey,
Hey, Michael. Can we pass
Hey.
over to Michael, Andy? Is that okay?
yeah, sure.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Michael. Yeah, just your
Okay,
thoughts.
so has anyone heard of the Hegelian dialectic?
I don't think so.
It was
Somewhat.
basically found by it was this, I believe it was either German or French psychologist, and what he did is basically find a way, kind of, to basically what you do is you create. It's done to create chaos. So once the people are in a state of chaos, then their logic kind of goes out the window, and they're like, oh, hey, we're afraid, and they're in that survival mode, and then they need something. So what it is basically create a problem that doesn't exist, have the masses go into a state of chaos, and then people are looking for the solution, but they created the problem. So it's basically a psychological warfare tool, basically.
Okay, so guys, I think I got another explanation.
Does that make
for this.
sense?
Well,
Yeah.
that's only parts of the story.
It can be summed down into what most media and news you hear today, where they go, I scream, you know the rest.
But then here's the thing, Michael, is that did you realize that just like the media, even the scientific community that I work in to get my PhD in, they actually got their funding from somewhere. Otherwise, they cease to exist. And one of those, it has to be the pharmaceutical industry. Because where else do you think would try to instill fear, instill drugs, instill all sorts of stuff, even mental disorders, into the public? Where? Anyone guess?
Can't hear you, Andy.
Hey, Bonnie.
Okay, can you guys hear me better?
I can't hear you, Andy. I'm sorry. I was trying to listen, but maybe if I turn my volume all the way up.
Andy was making us guess something. I don't know what he was.
I caught the end of that.
Yeah.
Andy, do you want to just continue?
He's gone.
Oh.
Oh,
He's
there
back.
it is.
Can you guys hear me better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing. When Michael, you were talking about the media instilling fear about the Ebola epidemic, who in here realized that they, just like the scientific community, they rely upon the funding of whoever gives them the money. Who in here realized that?
I'm sorry. What are we realizing, or what? Can you restate the question?
Like, who in here realize that just like the scientific community who does the research for the drugs, for the health and everything, that the media also relies on the funding of another agency to actually put the news on, like, the TV, for example, so that they can get, like, royalties, for example, from whoever advertises or choose to use their media to advertise.
Of course, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Then guess what? It has to be the drug companies, because just like how in depression, like if you guys watch all the advertisements that the drug companies create in mental disorders like depression, anxiety, like xanafillins, all the drugs, they use the same tactics on us on Ebola.
Yeah.
But just in a different way. And they're doing it more aggressively. This is a sign that they're not being successful with us, and now they're trying to get stronger on us. So therefore, it's up to us to be more persevering, so that we can kick their ass out of the window.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the nose there, Andy, because what they're showing is desperation to... It's a different story on the same game. It's like another soap opera, but it's still just a drama. Get people psyched up and to give away the power and submit. It's just the same tactics over and over again. And yeah, people fall for it, but then some are starting to see through, the cracks in that same old, same old.
Now, here's the thing, guys. Did you know that look at those evil people? Aren't they insane humans already?
I don't think they're evil.
But
Everyone's created from a place of love,
here's the thing.
usually.
Do you know that they're stupidly insane?
It's just the way you're looking at it, man.
Think about it. They know that it's not working, and yet they're still using it. That's only stupid and insane.
Well,
They're
how do
not
they?
stupid if they can manipulate that many people.
How about
Well,
call them so unenlightened?
Yeah,
Like,
they're using their powers for ill.
Andy, how do they know that, like, that it's failing? Because if they've got the
because first off, here's the thing. Just like how, right? I know what you're talking about, but like, here's the thing.
Go ahead,
Hey,
Andy.
what was that? Alright, so here's the thing: is that when it comes to knowing how it fails, the reason why they knew that it's failing, but why are they keep doing it is because first off, they knew that some people are stupid. That's all that is. But the thing is that we're already too clever. Think about it. You have what we call YouTube on there. You have Twitter. You have all sorts of social media. How do you expect the world to be any more like dumber than they expected? They fail to acknowledge the fact that social media made a big impact on us.
Andy, I don't think they fail to see these things. It's been shown throughout history that every every bit of natural knowledge gets infiltrated so as to be skewed. So I doubt that they're ignorant of it. It's just the way that those minorities are up there. They live on fear. That is their motivation, their driving force, and their actions reflect that because fear seeks to control what it has no authority over, what it does not understand. You know, the emotional aspect and unpredictability of human nature, human capacity, the boundless potentials that we can create if we're not bound, right?
Right, but this is what I need to share with the world. Is that this is why, like, if you guys don't notice it, I actually started my own mystery schools where I taught people about what is uncertainty. How do you develop the certainty within that uncertainty? Because the thing is according to existential philosophy, that everything is based off of what you create. You are the master of your own world, and that you only have one life to live right now, and that's it. The problem is that people don't know that they're in control, and they felt like too much knowledge, they are too stupid, too ignorant, and they live off of the fact that they are too ignorant, and then bam, they let everyone else control them. This is not how I teach teenagers or even children to take ownership. I teach them, you are your leader. You are your own master, and I commend you for coming here today. That's the first thing we need to teach the children, is that you are the master, and I am here to guide you. And let me take your hand and let me bow my head low to you, child.
Well, I just want to say, like, as far as the mystery schools, they've been around since, I'm sure the beginning of time. But Merlin's mystery school, that was my idea. It just kind of fell into my head.
My Dzogchen came from theosophy, Tibetan Buddhism, and even the what do you call it? The Golden Dawn.
Well, that's where a lot of my teachings have come from. The Golden Dawn. I'm just saying there's authenticity, and that's just the most important thing to me. The reason why I began doing Merlin's Mystery School is because Bonnie already had meditation down pat. I didn't know what Tony was going to be doing, and Andy started doing something else. So that's why I was like, okay, let's have a magic class. Let's do something authentic that nobody else is doing. So you can, of course, create your own mystery schools, but I'm just saying Merlin's Mystery School is in its own area.
Well, mine's also in its own area too, and like seriously, I miss Bonnie's meditation so badly. I wish that she's back. But then I was like,
Aww.
but then once I asked her, she said, take Thursday. And then I was like, fine, I'll have to do it. But this time, I'll change things up a bit. This time, I'm taking people to hell. Welcome to hell, people. I'm unleashing the
Oh,
inferno.
you're not gonna
You
get
know,
you're not gonna
you
get
know,
that from
Andy,
Bonnie.
Andy, I
I'll be
tried
right back,
so
guys.
hard to
People to
stop
hell.
you, but I don't know what to get into your little head. Taking people to hell, I mean, come on, man.
I'm just
If I
saying.
was there, I would slap you in the back of the neck. Because, like, dude, how many people here want to go to hell? Raise your hand if you want to go to hell. See,
I'm just saying
Andy,
for
nobody
people
wants to.
from people that aren't even say they haven't even been meditating a long time, but say psychologically, like they've got a lot of shit to work on, you know. So to take them to hell is for someone that's completely in perfectly good mental health if they want to combat all their shadows and such. But for a person just starting, they need to start with something simple. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's not on that level, and they don't need. Some people,
I mean,
it's
I
not meant to be.
don't do like hell meditations. I don't try and go to hell in my meditation. So I'm trying to figure out like what the, like why. I guess in the show tonight, I kind of was hoping that we would talk more about like world issues like everywhere. Like the conversation of education. I guess I kind of felt like I guess I kind of got bored with the conversation because I feel
Yeah, I
like
don't
I'm
know where
not
we're
sure
going.
how to help.
Okay.
Not a good reason to not want to talk about something. So it kind of was a good realization for me. Like I'm like totally zoned out on this topic because I don't.
Okay, so
But we should stay on topic. Like, I
well,
mean,
then let's bring up about world education. So, like, let's talk about like what should we include into our education system? Because the thing is that, of course, I can just sit here and talk about like all sorts of stuff, but I'm listening to you guys about how do you guys want to teach the children? Because first off, I'm one of the teachers. I'm going to be working tomorrow.
I guess what I was saying is I would like to even talk about like expand more broadly into like world issues. Like what's going on in the world right now?
right.
This is, I had mentioned to Skull before the show started, it would be really neat, and maybe there needs to be like an encore show on this, where we have people that are from other parts of the world that can give us first-hand account of the uniqueness of what's happening over there, so that we don't have a skewed or third-party perspective on what's going on. So maybe that's something like if you know people that are in other parts of the world, you know, maybe bring them just for future attempts. Bring them on, get people connected who have who are actually not in North America, and have an actual point of view that hasn't been skewed by the lenses that we have here.
That'd be awesome.
So send that invitation out to anybody that you know.
Okay, so like when it comes to like world issues, let's talk about like the issue of democracy. Since actually my country, Vietnam, has gone through a lot of major changes from being a communist to now being a capitalist, and we're trying to get into democracy. But then the problem is that the more we become more capitalized, the more problems comes out of the country, you know? It's like we've been ignoring the poor, and a lot of the family values in Asia became corrupted, you know? That's one of the few things that happens in my country. And even China today is following the same path.
Okay, I mean, I see what we can do as far as like, you know, meditation and sending Reiki and helping things, but I'm saying on a political level, some things I think, I don't know. There's people on this planet that really study that probably more than other people, and I wouldn't really know where to go with that. But that's just my opinion.
Ryan at the end of the episode, Orgas, I can't even say the word right now, but he had a lot of insight about meetups and how the different types affect different types of change. So maybe we could just like start from there in terms of like meeting up for marches or just meeting up for even like group chats like this.
Hey Jay, what's
That
up,
can kind
man?
of like change.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, Narek, have you ever been inspired yourself of any particular avenue of how you see that, to bring out some way of getting people to connect and to to learn, beyond the framework that we're normally given?
Well, I've been part of some. I can't really say the name. I sort of forget what the term for it is, but it's like it's non-protest, but at the same time it's violent in the sense of using peace. Like if you all know what fracking is, I met up with some people. We made like a big group, and we made plans on going to these fracking sites and like chaining ourselves on the road together so they wouldn't be able to have their dump trucks and whatnot deliver chemicals and continue the fracking and whatnot. So I feel like that's activism in the sense of utilizing nonviolent methods to obstruct the continuation of acts that are harmful to the environment or to other people or whatnot is like a solid way to try to catalyze change and at the same time be connected with a group of people that have the same type of mentality of wanting to take concrete steps towards making that change instead of only talking about it. But talking about it also isn't something to be understated. Like talking about it is the first step. It's the first step that brings the whole seed of making that change, just from my perspective.
Yeah, I was thinking about rituals, which is just something that came to my mind from my experience earlier today with the men's groups about how we opened up with a circle of crystal bowls and percussion and chanting. And our culture, what do we have? I mean, cultures historically, they have their own rituals, practices, and whatever. Some might be a little short-sighted, but some are for embracing connection. And what does our society have really for embracing connection? From what I see, it's actually quite the opposite. It supports segregation, and so what can we bring back that we could ourselves go out and do if we step up the courage and step up to the plate and make an effort to start up a group of any kind or any community, or even just going to a community center and putting up a proposition of starting a group, putting up a flyer or something like that, and seeing maybe people will show up. But what kind of rituals to get people to join together, to share space, in not just in presence but in spirit, that you feel that you're drawn together for a common cause, whether it be something activism related or self-empowerment and self-discovery related.
I'll state most I would just meditation circle of any discussion in a meetup or something, even connecting in a sense.
Could you say that again, Eric?
I'm not sure if I'm cutting that or not. Yeah, I feel like my connectivity to the internet is being kind of iffy at the moment, so I'll stop speaking just for this session.
Narek, if you like, you can, because you have input in your mind to share, obviously, you can always text things in there and then we can read it out loud as well.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, would anyone else like to share any experiences that maybe they have had or ideas that you're postulating that could embroider that kind of concept of methods of getting people to connect that's not just a digital platform like this?
I think if we could meet everyone on this Google Hangout and get together, I think that'd be a lot easier.
That'd be wild.
Practically speaking, though, something that anybody could kind of walk away with, like, you know what, that's a really good idea, and you know, I could do that in my own neighborhood. I could do that in my community. I could do that in my city. I could do that in my classroom. Things along those natures, like really practical takeaways. Because we can't all meet up together and, you know, not necessarily something that would actually come of that from just one meeting, you know.
Right, not right now,
Really,
at least.
it would be something that's a sustained effort.
Well, actually, since finding out about paradigm shift, that's one of the things I want to do is get some kind of communication basis going, because even though there are people who are awakened to what's going on, it's not a good portion of the place I live in. And I want to get something going with the local arts hub here to just get people coming to do drum groups, because that's already going on. So getting that included with doing yoga and meditation sessions is an idea of mine, because there's enough people to get something started. It's just how to get it out there is where I'm kind of stuck at, because communication is this really shitty thing where I live, because I don't know, it's just the way people are.
Is it a limitation in terms of not having like a space or a facility that where people could come together?
Well, that's why I said the arts hub, because if I do get something going, there's at least a space. And then there's also a yoga shop in town. There's like a place that does like massage treatment, and they sell sorts of like rocks and like incense and stuff like that. And I know that they have a basement, and so they've used it for yoga and like some type of meetings. So if the Arts Hub doesn't walk through, at least I know of 2 other places in town that would work. It's more so the communication of actually getting it out there that's the issue.
What have you attempted so far?
Well, I have put out a few messages with people, but that's the thing, is like people don't really take it in. So, I don't know. Like, I'm not really in a rush, so I'm taking my time with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I had this feeling about this kind of stuff that if we can conceive of an idea, something that we want to do in our community, and it's not being done currently because of whatever perceived limitation, or we haven't, you know, stumbled upon the way,
Yeah.
that need is there to be served. That there are people who would actually very obviously benefit from it. You just haven't stumbled upon to it, but once you actually, and this is something I learned when through mentorship as well, is that when you want to initiate something, don't be attached to the outcome of it, and obviously don't be in fear of anything related to that experience, but just go and just do it. And maybe only one person shows up, maybe nobody shows up. Maybe nobody shows up 3 times in a row. But hold that space.
Yeah.
And then eventually someone maybe will. And
I
then
like
it'll
that.
grow.
That totally makes sense.
Well, I don't know.
Because you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Like, I'm not expecting to get a huge turnout of people. Like, I'd be happy with just a few people taking interest, but I have got one person interested because he uh, works at the Arts Hub. And, like, I don't know, we spent about a half an hour talking about Paradigm Shift because he hasn't looked into it yet. But he's interested. So it's a start.
Yeah, and another cool thing that I've been a part of on occasion is kind of types of gathering where it's like, I guess the theme would be like a party, but not by perhaps typical thinking. It'd be more like you might have someone who comes and DJs, an eclectic array of music, but then you also have other activities that will have happening all at the same time. Almost like think of it like a little mini festival. Maybe you will have people and these would be people volunteering, sharing what they do and what they have, because through that sharing, not only do you create an awesome thing for people to experience, but you could also develop connections to share more later that might bring you revenue, whatever you might need, whatever exchange you might need. But anyways, so these sharings would be in the form of people providing music, people providing massages, people providing tarot readings, like whatever out of the box fun things, people providing contributions of food, like innovative cuisine ideas, or just really like an out of the box kind of concept of a party that draws in a lot of diverse people from all walks of life. I've been a part of a number of gatherings like this, hosted by different people and at different locations, and Toronto is an amazing hub for that. And and these are pretty strong communities. Like, you always see familiar faces when going to things like this, because it's something about you're connecting and you're expressing it, and it's fun. So that kind of event is, another option to consider.
That is a good idea.
Because then what you're also doing by that is you're not being so specific as to, well, this is what it is. So we're coming here just for that. But
Yeah.
you're allowing people to bring in different interests, hobbies, aptitudes, and you're really opening up the forum to a lot more than you might otherwise find.
Hmm.
Anyone else, feel free to chime in. Nope.
So quiet. Maybe we should do a meditation.
That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think those are some really good perspectives. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would say for someone trying, if someone's doing it alone and they want to attract these people to come, you'd be surprised by just setting the intention, or I guess you could use a prayer, or just whatever you feel. Just set that intention that the people that are attracted to this information or need this information or techniques or practices, that they will show up.
Yeah.
There's more physical ways to make it happen, but I think that that's a good component to have, like to set that intention. Okay, this is something authentic. This is well, it's not the only place in the universe, but you do something authentic, and the universe usually uh, sends a flow of that energy your way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a line from The Alchemist I'm reading right now. That when you truly desire something, the universe conspires to bring you what you need to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly which I have heard that from The Alchemist. That's probably where I got that from.
Yeah. So really, it's an easy, nice read that reminds you of consolidated ideas around, like Brandon said it, I think the other week, about how to recognize synchronicity every day, every step of the way, and that it's always in alignment with you carrying forward into actualizing your personal legend, um, your role, your mission here. It's a nice read.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. With synchronicity, I mean, it's such a, you could do it, like, I mean, people use divination, but you could really use divination with anything, like the radio. That's an interesting thing, is don't use you don't want to use, say, something like an MP3 player, because you can, well, I guess you could, uh, but you want to use something that the songs are just spontaneous. And if you use like a radio something, it's always good how it works, because it's just kind of, you ask a question, and then just whatever song is chosen, um, that's your answer. Or you could do it with the television, um, and just kind of like you would with a fortune cookie or a tarot card, but just ask the question and then just flip through the channels, and then whichever one it lands on, and then whatever the message is, and then you receive it.
Exactly, and that's also in a way in the book as well, with I forget the names, but the two stones, the black stone and the white stone, that when you need to make a decision, if you truly are lost and cannot make it on your own, then to phrase your question, and then whatever stone you pull out, that tells you yes or no. But it's all guided by what? Intention. Clear intention.
Yeah.
Because once you're clear, I mean, it's very similar. If you don't want to attract, say, now, whatever a person's preferences are, if they're into, but for, say, one thing is that you say, for people that dress gothic or whatever, say, there's nothing wrong with that. You just don't want to attract that particular people or energy into your life. And so when you're clear with that intention, okay, well, everything goes away from the gothic people, and it shows all the people who do not dress like that or act like that or whatever. That's just an example. It's nothing towards people who like the goth subculture or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it's just like when you're clear, it's just kind of like the universe or the divine intelligence just recognizes instantly that okay, well, this is not for this person, and this is not what this person wants, and so the universe just is just like, okay, disappear.
It gives you to the degree of how serious and clear you are on it. So to the degree that you are vague or uncertain, you'll be given that much of a test to
Yes,
prove yourself wrong should you choose to exercise doubt, as opposed to, it's the upgrading of doubt. It's a discernment.
totally. You have to be very clear, because if you're kind of wishy-washy, which uh, it, the universe doesn't understand wishy-washy, so it just gives you just a bunch of everything. But it's like when you're just straight clear, like, this is the type of person or this is the type of animal or whatever that I want to attract, and then it shows up because it's you've eliminated the bullshit in a way. Once you just eliminate the things that are kind of in the way of what you want, it's just so clear to, uh, you know, it's kind of like a hose, like when you have like a gardening hose and it gets tangled up and it restricts the flow. It's kind of like you untangling the hose. That once you've got all those tangles or knots out of the way, it's just a strong pressure flow of water, and I mean, it's just so much stronger. That could be an analogous to the universe.
And you'll always be tested.
Yep. Well, because I think Earth is like a school, and so I think this is all really a test, um, to see kind of if you get to go to the next level, or hopefully you don't need to take the test again. Nobody likes that, but yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah, so good impromptu to let go of half-hearted beliefs that keep you stagnant and hold you back.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anything that's not inspired by love. I mean, there are two paths, love and fear. Um, but if you notice, um, fear doesn't really help you really evolve in any sense, because I mean, fear just usually leads to other emotions that are usually negative emotions. Kind of like they say in Star Wars. Fear is the path to the dark side. So I mean, I really believe that, because I think almost every negative emotion stems from fear.
Yeah, I think it's that stifling element, whereas love gets us to grow. That means, and one of the purest forms of love, you can actually create life with it, or exercise creativity with it. That's growth, and its opposite would be stagnation, which is what fear does. It inhibits growth and supports breakdown and adversity and separation, segregation.
Totally. I mean, but especially now, I mean, it's an acronym. I don't know if it makes sense for what we're saying here, but basically fear, which some people say it's false evidence appearing real.
Appearing real.
Yeah, but I mean, you see, the thing is, most of these in the pharmaceutical company, the drugs, prescription medicine, a lot of these things, it's not even so. Okay, well, uh, I'd say maybe a percentage, maybe 45% to 50% is that this disease or this thing is actually going to occur. I think the biggest portion that really messes people up and makes them, go to a lower state is the fear that it could happen to them or that it will happen to them.
But they're only susceptible to that because of predisposing factors, which is obviously the disempowerment piece, that this empowerment hand that they've been dealt with since their birth. And this is what people need to wake up to, that no one outside of you is an authority on what it is that you have or who you are or who you should be. And that is the true reality. So if people wake up to that, then you can now begin to consider, like, and I'm going to reference the Truth About Cancer miniseries, because they actually talk about this. Like, medical doctors talking about this, how the placebo effect is
Right.
frowned upon by typical practitioners in the medical profession, simply because they can't understand it or control it. But if you can trigger someone's healing or self-healing by using and maximizing placebo and not toxifying their body, trying to achieve a half-hearted similar result, then you should do that. And so it goes to show the power of the mind. It has both the ability to create sickness as well as to heal ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I give an example. I used to, I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was a sensitivity thing or I don't know where it came from. But almost sometimes if I was talking to somebody, just talking to somebody on the phone, or even maybe watching in a video, a person, if they're making that really nasally voice, like they're sick or something, or like that real throaty voice, like they have a sore throat or whatever. Just hearing that sound, I could feel myself begin to slowly feel that way, and I have no idea why. There's no physical contact with them. There's no way that they could be breathing on me or anything, but I would just feel, and literally possibly get sick through the phone or through watching something. So it's now how could someone make sense of that?
Yeah, that's what they would call, like, psychosomatic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's just speaking on the same principle of what the mind can instill on the body. So we're automatically going to be subjected to disease if prominently we're living through the mind at the neglect of the other major key component, obviously, which is exercising the heart. The passion, the will to give and share and express.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to overcome that schism within ourselves, ultimately.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, with the placebo thing, I mean, it really is interesting. Like they've done There's a good book. It's called Darkness Visible, and there's this guy, Dr. Edmund Jacobson, I believe, and he was measuring basically like muscle movement, and he was having people basically like run around in meditation, like basically visualize themselves running in their head, and then they would do different tests, and they would observe and they would see basically muscle movement, the same pretty much muscle movement as if they were actually running. And also there was one where they were doing it was like basketball. So there was like a team of people that played basketball, you know, maybe like on a weekly or daily basis, that they'd practice and they'd do like free throws or whatever. And then they had people who were not really basketball players, but they just visualized themselves basically doing the shots. And then when it came time for them both to do it, they both scored pretty much the same.
Of course, because the neural pathways in the brain are still being established. The subconscious is not discerning whether the physicality is there or not. It's just the thought process of the neurons firing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's you mentioned basketball. It's like I suck at basketball, and I remember one instance where I was having a particular stretch of time where I was really getting more in tune with my muscle testing and just being connected to divine, so that I could have be like a clear vessel to receive information for. And I was actually at work and there was a basketball net, and I asked divine, please guide my hand. And I wasn't even really looking, like trying to aim it at the hoop, and from pretty far away I just threw it with just the pure intent that I'm out of the equation. My mind is like not here, but it's just the spirit flowing through, and the intent. And that ball went in like it was a pro shot. And I was like, wow, that's connection right there. So
There you go.
yeah, there's the physical mental capacities, but when people really start to then play on higher levels as well, God, who knows what we could achieve.
Well, total. I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm not really a sportsy guy either. I'm a lot more of a artsy kind of guy. But I would just use it as an example because it explains such a deeper concept. You know, I mean, you can make basketball, I guess, into like a spiritual practice. If you were, I would say it'd be better to do it by yourself alone because that way it's more meditative, not as competitive. But yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
because I think the only thing that's the only thing with sports is that friendly competition I think is cool as long as it's like, okay, we're both on the same journey. This is not about you versus me. This is about us helping each other or maybe challenging each other, but realizing, you know, you're not doing this to get one over the other person or prove that you're better than the other person. And that's the only thing that I don't, you know, about sports that I just it turns me off because that discipline and that learning and that appreciation that say maybe martial arts or yoga or these different arts teach you, you know, it's lost because you're under the illusion that this other person is your opponent. Really, the opponent is yourself.
Yeah, well, that's the framework of sports is designed in that box exactly. That there are rules. There is a clear objective, which is to win, and especially when you're talking about like professional sports, like leagues and whatever, national leagues and all that kind of stuff. That's what the focus is. It's a market. It's
Totally.
actually a market, and it's got very clear defined structure of what it is intended to do and how it operates. So we cannot expect that they would have more enlightened way of being, because when they're out there on the hockey rink or whatever, let's say, they're not thinking, and I, pretty much, I would love to hear actually the perspective of someone who actually plays it professionally to counter this, but I don't think that they would be hearing like, I'm gonna do my best, and I'm just doing this because this is fun. No, they're thinking about I gotta win because that's what they're being ingrained with to be
Right.
at their
Well,
peak.
unless it was Brendan, he may have an interesting perspective on, because I think he plays hockey.
Yeah, he
And
does.
and I was actually talking to someone earlier today who plays soccer and is very fanatical about soccer and supporting his country and all that.
Hmm.
And like when he's on so he's very objective as per how the framework of the sport is. He says when he's up there on the field, what he's thinking about is getting through that opponent, getting that goal, and like it's very sublimated that way.
Hmm. Well, see,
And
that's. Well, go ahead, Joel.
yeah, and then someone else in that conversation actually mentioned also how sports were it was sort of the evolved form of quote civilized version of fighting, of how war used to be done, and this was I think back in Greece, if I'm not mistaken, where
They do have
so
a similar. They have similarities. Definitely because I mean, in a way, okay, it's not, say, dehumanizing. Uh, your it's not dehumanizing in the sense of your opponent, but the thing is, once you say this is your opponent, it's your opponent. You're not looking at him as a human being anymore. You're looking at it as your opponent,
yeah.
and that you want to win. And it takes you out of reality for that moment because you just want to beat this person. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know if well, I say dehumanizing because I'm saying you're not looking at it as this is a human being and this is the exact same thing that you're created out of. But like I say, friendly competition is okay. But I'm just saying that the way that, let's just say, uh, baseball, football, a lot of these sports have been running, even boxing. Uh, it just really, you don't really feel the oneness or really much love, for one another.
Yeah, it's not there. Even the concept of confronting yourself, facing yourself, isn't there because it's being externalized. You versus them, us versus them. So,
Especially
then,
like UFC or something like that. Um, like it's just the ego is out of whack. I think that's what it is. So much of it comes from a place that it's just so egocentric, and I think that's what really turns me off because you're looking at these people for their talents, but you're not looking at people as people anymore as much. You just realize their talent, which is good, that people have their talents, but I'm saying like their talents are just their talents are being hoarded out, kind of in a sense. You know, basically marketed.
In other words, their spirit, soul, essence is being sucked out for the machine.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They're
They
basically
become agents, like they say in the Matrix.
they're like a tool, just used improperly.
But even with Bruce Lee's whole thing is that like there is no opponent. Like, I mean, the opponent is just there for a metaphor to say, like, this is you trying to express yourself and recognize uh, your own abilities, your own self, you know, and so really, I mean, that's one of the things that I like about martial arts in the sense, but there's always that philosophy that is well understood, is that you learn these things in order to better understand yourself and maybe protect yourself if somebody's, you know, invading your space. But this has nothing to do about anyone else. In that sense, it's this is for you to basically understand, you know, your strengths and weaknesses in a kind of a way of expressing the human body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, well, even with martial arts, they have sparring, but I'm saying there's always the bow, there's always the respect. It's never trying to hurt the person or anything like that. It's just to get better. There's always the bow, there's always at the end, like said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kick that hard or whatever, you know, but there's always a mutual respect for, if you want to say, the opponent, you know. But a lot of these sports, unless maybe like chess or something, which I think is really good for the mind, really good strategy, teaches you a lot about yourself. There's no physical thing you usually have to worry about during chess, so I think that could make it you know, a good or fun thing to play. It's considered a sport.
Considered an activity.
Oh yeah. So I mean, or even, I don't know. I mean, people, even some of the things. Now I know, you know, people say things about, you know, technology and such, but even some of the things on the Wii that have now they're not going outside, but I think some of the activities people are able to experience like an exercise, as if they were actually practicing the exercise. You know, maybe archery. You know, maybe archery. Not on animals, but, you know, on targets or something. You know, I think these things can help and really train the focus and things of others. But I'm just saying, you have to crush that whole competition mentality, because that's really where I think society is suffering at. there's just such a yucky taste in my mouth when I just hear competition.
Well, the fact that you brought up archery is a really good point, because actually, like, right before you said it, I was going to say it. Because there's, like, a huge difference between teaching a child how to use a gun and how to use a bow. Because with a gun, what do? You look down a sight, you click a button. That's it. There's nothing to it. But with a bow, you need to actually have respect for the bow itself, because it's going to take your own physical strength, your own patience, your own mental awareness, your own physical awareness. And there's really, like, with the bow, it's like a sword. It's an extension of yourself. And, like, if you're teaching a child that, they're going to learn in a more positive manner, because they're learning about themselves instead of any outer source, like a gun, if that makes sense.
Right. No, totally. Yeah, and I mean, at least with a bow and arrow, you know, well, there's a bow and arrow doesn't always have to hit the target. But I mean, it's very hard to get the bow and arrow wrong. In that sense, with a gun, you have to be really careful. I mean, you know, I think that's why a lot of people get paranoid. You know, or it's not so much the gun in itself; it's just what it represents. I think the bow and arrow could be used, you know, not in the loveliest manner, but I think, at least with the bow and arrow, there's a good chance, you know, unless it hits an artery or something, that a person will make it. As far as a gun, I think the chances are a lot lower. You know, and especially with, you know, you don't have to use an actual arrow. You could use one of those, one of those little things, you know, that it's not necessarily the arrow they have. It's like this, when you shoot it, they have that thing at the end, and it makes that sounds like it's like a. It's kind of like it just. If you're not using an actual arrow, but I don't know. There's just a feeling with the with the bow and arrow that's just a. It's just a really relaxing, very zen type of feel that you get when shooting the bow and arrow.
Yeah, it's being present. I think that's what you're describing. In that moment, you're just looking, you know, so clearly at your objective of where you're aiming for. You have to be very mindfully present to be doing that.
Mm-hmm. Totally, and it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be competitive, because I mean, you could just put up a target. You know, you know, you don't want the arrow to go in somebody's backyard. You know, you want to make sure you have enough space and everything. But you know, you just set up a target. You could just be doing it by yourself. I think a lot of these things is good by yourself. You could do it with other people and it's fun, but I'm just saying, when you get that whole competitive thing, it's like it takes the spirit out of the practice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now chess, I understand, because that's a board game where, you know, it's all about strategy, and it's all about, you know, checkmate. But that's chess, you know. But it's really a lot more of the mind, and nobody's really usually has to worry about their physical you know, body during chess. I don't think there's that many precautions you have to worry about with the chessboard. You know.
Just patience.
Yeah, just patience, you know, because some people, you know, it may take like 20 minutes to make a move or something. But chess really teaches you to be in the present moment, and it really teaches you to think. It really teaches you to, because you've got to think a couple
Chess
steps ahead.
so not teach you how to be in the present moment. It's all about future tensing.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. Okay, I said that wrong. Yeah, like
It teaches
yeah,
you.
it's future
It
tense.
teaches you anticipation, fine-tuning the mind so that it can be used as a tool when you need that level of articulation. There's a good practical application for chess other than just fun.
Totally. Well, I mean, that's really why I play. I mean, it is fun, but I really do play it because I think it's really good for the mind. Um, and it really does teach you about yourself. Um, because it's kind of like the whole thing is just like sometimes you have to be a little bit. Sometimes you have to be on the defensive, in the sense that sometimes you need to be a little bit more uh, assertive. But it's all about you have to think before you make each move, and I think that's the whole thing with chess. And
No,
and
I
always
wanted
play to the very last piece.
I'm curious to ask people. I mean, I don't know if people are just kind of logged into here and playing this in the background or just looking for the heck of it, but um, there oftentimes it is a lot of the same people who kind of voice their thoughts, opinions, and whatnot. And I'm just kind of curious. So, what is the motivation of why each of you who have not spoken, why are you here?
For a community and to be a part of something other than ourselves, right? To reach out. Love you
Well, you
all.
know, Brendan comes and goes. You know.
No? Okay.
So, Mark, since you launched that off,
To get out, to
what
get outside of our comfort zone for me is what it is right now, I guess, and to make some new connections, some ones that can help us all grow.
As
and
far as
what
I go, most of the people in here and most of the people actually that I encounter every single day think totally differently than I do. And I like to listen to what other people are saying and have my own opinion, keep to myself. So I'm just here to listen and learn.
I guess because this I think is one of the turning points of what this is all about here, and the very idea of community is that everyone is a contributor. So consider this a staging ground for you to practice your perceived differentiation from how you're so different from everyone else around you, knowing that here your insights can be acknowledged and potentially validated or challenged, but that's actually quite irrelevant. It's just the point that it's an avenue, a forum for you to be heard, because you obviously, every one of you comes from your own background, your own set of experiences. You're basically holding a unique piece of the puzzle that none of us have. So I'm just saying that to kind of encourage everyone to speak up and share your piece. You know, what's your unique fashion, you know, for this reality, this universe that we're all occupying. You know, what do you bring to the table? What drives you? What's your passion, your joy? Maybe what's the difference in the world that you've made, that you've seen, that you feel really proud about?
I have a lot of really interesting answers to that question, actually, but I'll only be able to answer them when I feel like I'm ready. I won't be able to answer them before that.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
I left it really open-ended to kind of just give people, you know, multiple bones to chew on, and then just maybe just bring one of them back.
What was your question even? Just
Okay, to sum it up, is
yeah.
what's one aspect, at least, of your uniqueness that you bring into the community, whether it be a passion, a piece of knowledge, an interest, perhaps a unique question no one has ever asked that you're curious about. Because what I'm trying to, sort of get people to walk away with is that sense that we all hold a piece of the puzzle. So it's important that we hear that piece, because what you have to bring, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think you basically answered it right there, that we all bring ourselves to it, and the more of us there are, the better it gets, because then we just, I don't know, there's so much different little components to a larger awesomeness. I don't know. Unless we're willing to jump out, then we're not bringing much. But if we're willing to just go for it, then we bring 100%, and that, yeah, don't we just want a lot of those as much as we can? I don't know. Let's grow a good garden. That's what we bring.
I agree with you. Like, I agree with you 100%. It's just certain topics just totally shut me down.
Yeah.
Certain topics just kind of freak me out, and just, you're not going to get any answer out of me with them.
Angela, would you like to shift the table on something that is perhaps of interest to you?
My mind goes blank when I'm put on the spot for some reason. I'm just not used to that. But that's not your fault. That's not anybody else's fault. That's just the way that my mind is. I'm not used to community as much as other people are, because I haven't been out there, and I also haven't, my computer, my camera and stuff like that hasn't been working, so I haven't been used to talking to people as far as that goes. Now on the stage, I can get on the stage in front of people with lights in my eyes because I can't see. I could do that, but I can't.
That's all right. Anything that we see that sort of as a hindrance, it's just a perceived limitation, and that's honest, and that's kind of the biggest hurdle, I think, initially for people to kind of understand and to really integrate into their experience, is that it's okay if I don't have all the answers. It's okay if I fail. It's okay if I fall and stumble. It's okay if I'm kind of scared and freaking out. You know what? It's a safe space. I think that's what these online communities like Paradigm Shift and others are about. One large element of that is creating safe spaces for people to share and express and be heard and bring your piece forward, whatever that may be, and that even that will change over time as you grow.
I totally agree with that, but you see, spaces, as far as I go, as far as people with epilepsy goes, they aren't safe because stress is a leading cause of seizures, and I have seizures. So when I'm stressed out and scared, that can cause me to have seizures, and that can cause an unsafe environment for me to be in. So I'm actually putting myself out here just being in this environment, to tell you the truth, until I learn how to deal with that. And actually, I have to take some medicine to keep me from having seizures to where I can die, you know, where you can actually die when you have a seizure, depending on the type of seizures that you have and everything like that. I can actually die if I don't take my medicine, which I've tried, but I ended up waking up on the floor, which wasn't a good idea. But I'm at least coming here, so I'm stepping out. I'm at least trying.
Good job. Yeah, you are.
Congrats, Angela.
And congratulations on just doing that and being open and honest with us and with yourself.
Well, thank you. Thank you. There's one topic actually, but it kind of gets me worked up. Marijuana. How do you guys feel about marijuana helping all the different kind of illnesses? And as far as I think that you guys were talking about Ebola or whatever. As far as that goes, then why don't they freaking try that on? Because that can heal me, and that can heal a whole bunch of different illnesses.
I have a lot of experience with cannabis I could comment on, but I'd happily let someone else, if you want to chime in on your experience with its potentials, please go ahead.
I think anything that you believe will help you. And, you know, if you go ahead and experiment with something and you just go into it with a complete open mind, then you're going to have, like, its own properties kind of thing. Like, it's going to show you what it does. But if you say this is going to be really bad, then it's going to be really bad. But if you think this will be really great, then it'll probably be, you know, better than somebody who thinks it's going to be a negative or a not so good. But I don't know. From my own experience, it's always been a really enjoyable thing with people, kind of thing. Like it's been you know, it's just like sharing a day together kind of thing. It's just it gives you an event. It's like going bowling. It's smoking this together with the people kind of thing. So it's like a glue, in my opinion. But it also has, you know, the amazing. I don't know. Before I went into it, I guess, like I've smoked it a lot, but now it's like it doesn't really need to be there kind of thing. But I don't know. I feel like it gets you into a zone where it just clouds away everything else kind of thing. Like if you've got problems on your table or you believe that there's things running you down, it allows you to just like say, hey, wait a minute, you know, is everything actually really, you know, is there an earthquake around me kind of thing. It allows you to come back into your body or, you know, whatnot in a way. That makes sense. Hopefully that kind of shares my perspective on it. I think it's really great. Like I like the plant in general. I like kind of everything. So, yeah.
I think you brought up some beautiful points there.
Indeed.
Thanks. Yeah. I'd really like to see a field of it one day. You know, just walk through that and just see the plant in general. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, when I can speak on the from experience that as one delves more and more onto their spiritual, call it spiritual aptitude, spiritual health, you become more sensitive to things and you begin to recognize the essence of the uniqueness to everything. So, and with cannabis, it has an ability, beautiful ability to a twofold ability, I would say. One is to cloaks out all the veils that we see in reality, all these limitations and things that are all just constructs in our head. They're ideas that are so ingrained in us that they make up our everyday reality. Cannabis can, at least temporarily, on its part, lift those veils, and then we see more clearly. And that ability can stay with us if we nurture it once our body recognizes it. But that's definitely takes practice. And the other thing is that it also is very wonderful or very potent at accentuating your state of mind. So if you're so fixated on being anxious about being in a particular situation that you're uncomfortable about, or worrying that this might expose something you really, really, really don't want to deal with or whatever, and you're chronically worrying about that, it will manifest that for you because it's basically saying, okay, so there's this underlying issue here that you're totally ignoring or totally suppressing, and it will give you that opportunity to face that, to address that. But if you're so freaked out about it, then your experience is going to be, you're going to be very paranoid. And that's why people sometimes experience extreme paranoia, is because they're trying to control everything around them when they're undergoing this experience. When the whole point of it is to actually flow with it as it is, not as you perceive it to be, based on all the filters that you employ to try and control your environment, control yourself so that you feel safe, afraid of the unknown, rather than embracing the unknown as a companion. Because that's what it is. It's always there. It will always be there, and you'll never know the potential of what it can show you, what you can learn about yourself. And that's something to be embraced if you really want to embark on this journey. At some point, you have to come to yourself and be like, okay, so am I scapegoating my ailment or my disease or my issue or my emotional trauma on my father, on my teacher, on that bully? Like, realizing that anything external is just that. It's just an external mirror for you to recognize that you decided somewhere along the way to drop the ball, sort of speaking, and allow something else to rationalize why you dropped the ball, and then people attach themselves to that, and then when we say, well, there's a remedy for that, then we attach ourselves to that remedy, all the while ignoring why we developed this coping tactic in the first place. And that takes some real deep willingness to go within and face that shadow element within us. And that's a big pill to swallow for a lot of people. But
Okay. You want me to drop the ball then, right? I'll tell you something that I'll tell you something then that's on my mind. Okay. My ancestor was hanged in Salem, and you guys were just talking about an event that had to do with people being in fear, and that kind of, that kind of gets to me. People being in fear and stuff like that.
I mean, it gets to us all, yeah.
There's an expression that goes, if it gets to you, it is you. And I don't say this as a judgment in any way, or for the person hearing that to feel that they need to judge yourself. It's more like a prompt to be like, okay, so if I'm reacting to this, why am I reacting to it? And get dig and dig and dig at what's the real underlying thing there. And that, actually don't rush into that. Go at a pace that you are comfortable with, but just slightly uncomfortable, so that you can continue to push the envelope, to push your threshold a little bit each time. Because that's important. That's how we're going to grow without overwhelming our neurology.
Neurology.
Yeah, our nervous system is what connects our physical experience to everything unseen.
Then I must be pretty connected. Sorry.
Well, actually, you're probably the more connected to what's in the unseen world than what is in the physical, so that in the physical body, you become overwhelmed due to your greater connection to the other side than here.
I agree with that.
And let me ask you
that a lot. But it's actually kind of sad because that means that when I see other people, they can do a lot of the things that I can't do, and a lot of ways I'm like a child. I'm like a little child that hasn't learned shit.
But then you're bringing forward something that those people cannot, and perhaps it's you are giving people an opportunity to exercise compassion, patience, understanding, love, and support. Now, the challenge for you would be to not see see people's reactions to you as you're being a needy, helpless person that needs support, and so that this is kind of like feeding dark sides of your ego, but rather as you recognize that, okay, I came into this world as I am, and I'm going to keep doing the best that I can, and recognizing the opportunities that I give people, but not taking them for granted, and not reacting to them if perhaps they fail me. It's important that when we have some perceived or physical disability or limiting factor of some kind, that we don't get addicted to the ego attachments that it can bring, like giving away our responsibility to others and using our whatever limitation may be as an excuse as to why that's okay. But recognize that there's also a perfection in it, because, like I said, you bring certain gifts for other people to exercise as well. You see how everything is an exchange.
Yeah.
Angela, I can tell you right now, and I'll be very honest and transparent about this, when you brought up that your reliance on medications, in the very first 0.33 milliseconds of you mentioning that, there was an aspect of me that was like, oh, geez, here's someone clinging to their meds. Because I have a very skewed, not skewed, but I have a very segregated perspective or opinion of that world based on what it represents and where it comes from and what it neglects to recognize, and I see also other alternatives. But that was just the ego responding, oh, here's a perceived threat, must react. But you keep working on yourself and recognizing yourself and being present, and that begins to get more tame. So rather than being staying in a reactive place, I was able to quickly turn around and be like, okay, you're giving me an opportunity right now to exercise patience and understanding and compassion. So Angela, you just offered that for me. And no doubt I've given you something, to work with as well. So it's all a positive exchange. We just have to see it that's what it is. Kind of the end of my rant there.
That's good.
I hope Angela didn't have a seizure.
No, I didn't have. Did you say? Did you say I hope she didn't have a seizure?
Yes, I did.
Dear, my medications control my seizures now. Most of them. I just take a lower dose than prescribed because of the fact that I don't believe that. Well, actually, of the fact that I have osteoporosis due to the fact that the medicines that I take decrease my bone mass, and that's only going to make it worse. So I won't take as much medicine as prescribed. I meditate instead.
Very nice.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It takes a lot of guts, actually, because you can't imagine what these shocks are like. They're like they're auras that I used to get before I had a seizure, and they feel like you're gonna die. They feel like death's like going through your body. It's really freaking scary. It's the same feeling that you get when you can't breathe. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's that feeling. It feels like you can't breathe.
Where do you get that from?
I get that from my. It starts in my head and it like goes down my arm. It's usually my left arm, actually. It's usually on my left side.
But where does this come from?
My doctors couldn't find out where it came from. They couldn't it came from unknown causes. And I started having seizures when I was 12 for unknown reasons.
Oh wow.
Well, anything that is on the left side of your body is going to be congruent with a right hemisphere disconnect or imbalance. And if it started at the age of, you say 12?
Mhm. Yep.
If it's something that just seemingly spontaneously combusted out of nowhere, it doesn't work like that. This is what the medical profession doesn't acknowledge. It's the connection between our physiology and, as I've said before, all the unseen aspects of us. The emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, and beyond. And so something happened that your physiology was not able to process, but something happened, and then that physically the body protected itself by disconnecting that piece so you wouldn't have to process something that could have potentially even killed you, but something would have triggered it. And you may not be able to remember, or maybe you can identify something around that age. Sometimes when it's traumatizing enough, people actually unconsciously don't lose all recall in relation to these traumas until maybe one day they're ready for it to surface and it triggers, and then they have an opportunity to deal with it when they're more ready and to integrate it, rather than be at the subjective whims of your coping.
It could be from a past life.
Or it could be from the fact that my father was in Vietnam and he sprayed Agent Orange.
And he what, sorry?
Oh, okay. That.
He sprayed Agent Orange?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
And I had a cyst in my brain when they took it out that my doctors didn't even tell my parents about.
So are you exposed to it, like directly?
My father was exposed to it. I wasn't exposed to it. My father.
That was prior to being born? That was prior to being born?
I'm sorry?
That was before you were born?
Yes.
Yeah, our genealogy as well as the karmic ties, both of those are almost one and the same in expression. But yeah, those can also easily be things that get triggered at some point in our lives to clean up someone else's mess in a way. Kind of funny irony how that works.
You could use Corella. Well, that's what the it'll be as far as for like toxins. That's what the Japanese use because when like that whole Hiroshima thing, the bombs were dropped on Nagasaki. That's what the Japanese used in order to basically clear themselves of toxins and all the radiation that were getting into their body. I don't know about Agent Orange, but it clears. Well, Joel, you know plenty about Corella, right?
I gotta go for a minute. I'll be back. Sorry, nature calls.
Oh, that's all good.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
It's like a type of seaweed that's.
They're algae.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A type of algae that it totally just.
It's really good for the mind, for the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all good. I mean, it basically just detoxifies kind of just basically any charcoal or mercury or lead or anything in your body that it does not work, does not help in the conjunction of everything working properly in the body. It kind of just I don't want to say flushes it out, but basically just gets rid of. So it really cleans internally, like cleanses the body down to like the cellular level, and it's one of the algae's one of the algae plant seaweeds that. Well, it's seaweed, so it can't really be modified. In a sense, like a lot of other plants, even maybe spirulina, could possibly be genetically modified, but it's pretty hard to do with seaweed.
Yeah, I wondered, now that you have that brought up, if I bought some, but it's mixed with spirulina, and I'm not too sure. Like, I look at it and I'm like, is this something like I want to take? Because there's so many things that are like kind of toyed with, and you don't want to start taking something that's not so great. But how do you know? I don't know that you got a good one or not. I think the company's it's from Richmond, BC, or like in Canada, and it's I think it's like Nature's Way or something. I don't know, but I want to take it, but then at the same time I'm going like, should I like, I don't know, try like, cause yeah, I'm in the dark with this one. So.
Are you talking about spirulina?
Yeah.
Chlorella.
You should.
Okay.
If you're gonna explore that world, you don't want to isolate just one. You would want to try the different algae that are out there, which are namely spirulina, chlorella, and AFA, blue-green algae, because each has different properties. So together they give you a more holistic effect. Like being able to help build blood, being able to isolate and toxic chemicals in your body to chelate with them and pull them out. So because when it comes to like nutritional supplementation, if you're just unless you're getting everything scientifically lab tested, you can either follow your intuition, or just direct experimentation. I can tell you in my experience, I have gone the route of direct experimentation, and then I stumbled upon intuitive dowsing and other methodologies that I can test with. But if you don't have those tools available to you, then experimentation. And then what you have to gauge with is how you feel. Be extra attentive to your body and see what happens. If you feel worse for a little while, I mean, if I'm not saying feel worse like if you're like having a complete breakdown and you feel like you need medical attention, okay, that maybe stop. But if you're feeling a bit of detoxification happening, then you can be more gentle, decrease the dosages of what you're trying. But ultimately, it's very common when you clean up what you're putting into your body, for your body to be like, a break, okay, let's try again. Noise.
That was awesome.
Okay.
It's like a car wash.
Now, how do I get it to move in my head?
But yeah, I think this is why like natural health foods can also interfere with medications, because they are like complete compounds or whole foods that will detoxify things out of the body, thereby preventing the full effects of some of the intended effects of some of the medications that people might be taking. So this is where people have to make a personal choice. If you're going to be pursuing a medical route, then consider finding a practitioner, a medical doctor, who's more into integrative therapy, where what can be addressed acutely with medical intervention, then they can use that. But then they can also be in connection with maybe a naturopathic doctor or a chiropractor or someone who specializes in any other particular practice or some other natural methodology, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic practices, the psychological attention, like whatever. But it's integrative. They're I can't remember, MetaHealth. If you look up MetaHealth online, you'll actually can look for MetaHealth practitioners and see if there's any in your region. People who operate that way, where they recognize the benefits of what they have to offer and also its limitations, and work integratively with others who have specialties and can decide or decipher, well, based on this, you can benefit from that, as opposed to, well, here's another pill to cover up that. Because here's the thing to understand, and this is fundamental: the medical world does not cure diseases. It deals in the business of treating symptoms. It is a business, and that is what it is designed to do. It treats the symptoms. It doesn't make anything go away. It is not curative. It does not address the root cause of anything. It just looks at, well, what's step one that's broken? It doesn't care about what's step 5, and the thing they can measure that's broken. It doesn't look at step 1. It doesn't even recognize what it would be. It's beyond its ability to comprehend and to measure, so it doesn't go there. But then you have other principles like Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, that understands things from a bioenergetic perspective and element theory, and looks at how imbalances can be existing in the body based on reverse flow of qi, on improper elemental distributions, on the psychology of the mind, and how people maintain, as a result of coping tactics, resistances to things, which create blocks in the body, the blockage of qi or prana or natural energy that animates it. And so there's a lot of angles that you can take. So just going strictly medical route, I don't advise it. I'm not saying I know everything, I don't, and I don't claim to. But the tools that I've been personally stumbled upon is harnessing intuition, being the one, and clearing oneself to be a clear channel for divine guidance, and being simply asking the right question, being good at asking the right question, and trusting the answers that come through enough to follow up, to follow through, whether that's being guided to someone else, or whether that is trying a particular food or a particular supplement or a particular practice or a particular exercise, whatever the case may be. But it's about opening up all the avenues and not limiting yourself, not thinking that this is the best way to do it or this is the only way to do it, but be like, well, let's see what this can do for me. Okay, well, that didn't work so well. Let's try something else. It's so key never to be attached to these outcomes of things, but really just ride that journey of accepting, which obviously can be hard, I know, especially when people are in positions that are more difficult than maybe, you know, your neighbor or your friend. But the principle at heart here stays the same. It's an openness to explore, to embrace the unknown, to accept who you are, where you're at, and that you don't know where you could go or the totality of what you can become. In other words, don't cut yourself short.
The problem with me is that when I was younger, I was much worse off than what I am now. I was like, I mean, and when you have a medical condition as bad as mine was, I mean, I had up to 100 seizures a day. You have to go to a neurologist. You have to, and in my case, my mother took over for me. It was basically her doing all of the thinking. I didn't do any of the thinking myself because I couldn't. My brain might as well have been fried. To tell you the truth. But my neurologist that I started seeing when I was 12 years old became like a father to me, because I thought even younger than 12 years old, and I knew him for so long that it was very hard when recently I had to switch. I switched doctors because I started to be after I had brain surgery and after I started to get a little bit better, which I'm much better than any of my doctors ever planned for me to be. I mean, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't do any of that stuff. And now I'm pretty dang good, well off as far as physically goes. But my doctor became like father to me because I saw him so much and he took care of me as far as that goes. So when I started having the ability to think and realized that this guy is paid for his time, the time that he spends with me, and that's why he doesn't want to spend over a certain amount of time with me, and that's why he would say certain things about my condition that was not really a nice thing for a neurologist to say to their patient. That's why he would say that, but I didn't. It took me a while to even realize that, because I had grown up in this world without being able to think and thought of him as like a father, thought of him as like caring, when actually he was being paid for the time that he was giving me, if that makes any sense. And I don't know why I just told you all that.
You told me that because actually, I wanted to ask you, what's the current relationship you have with your father? If he's
My father?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that. That's not anybody's business. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not supposed to.
You don't have to, but you actually revealed for me what I was getting at. And when I talk about one of the tools that I've learned to access is spiritual intuition, what's coming through from you is your father. And look at how you projected the role of the father figure onto your doctor. You saw him as a father figure, and it took you a while to get past the blindsidedness that he was just being paid to do a role. So there's some really deep stuff here. When you ever feel to need to address, it's all connected. Everything is all connected. We're not where we are accidentally or arbitrarily. It's there for a reason. It's to trigger us to heal something that we've inherited, something we've adopted or taken on. I know you're giving me a strange look on your face, like, what the hell are you talking about? But I'm just saying this because, you know what, it's a seed, and what you do with it is up to you. I'm just telling you what I was guided.
Well, I'll tell you one thing right now. My relationship between my father is between me and my father. It's not between me and you. It's not between you and my father. It's between me and my father.
That's why I'm not opening that gate. I just, I said what I said, and that's it. It's up to you what you want to do.
Just a messenger.
But your very resistance, if anything, shows my point. It's something for you to, if you want, to consider looking at. That's all.
I already have.
Okay.
Now, can somebody change the subject, please?
I want to ask a question. If you guys, I don't know if you can. Damn it. I've got Prairie Naturals, Spirulina, and Corella, and I wondered if you guys had any idea, or if maybe if you guys use that one or not. But yeah, what's one that you guys use and maybe would recommend using?
With chlorella, the key factor has to be that it's broken cell wall chlorella. Usually that's something that will be written on the label because its structure is impossible for our bodies to break down. So it has to be done through a mechanical process, and that's why that would be on the label. Broken cell wall chlorella.
Well, thank you very much. This one's only broken cell chlorella, so the spirulina in it hasn't been broken celled. Will that just be like floating around and having a real hard time in my belly kind of thing? Is what you're saying?
Well, is it broken cell wall chlorella?
Yeah, but not the spirulina.
No, spirulina is okay. It's the chlorella that's got that particular uniqueness to it.
Okay.
How have you been using it, or are you just thinking about using it?
I just been thinking about it, and then I wasn't too sure if this was, because it's important to get like, I don't know, good stuff, and not like something that's just gonna throw you way off or something. Good. I'm glad I asked, and I'm glad you knew that. So I'll probably start using that because it's really good for the whole system.
If you, I would just suggest you start off with a small amount to wean yourself into it, not just because of its potent flavor, but also because just to give your body a chance to adapt and not to feel any particular stuff come about from your body that might get released. I mean, I don't know what your lifestyle or diet is like to start with.
And it is strong stuff because it says like 1 teaspoon, has like a ton of milligrams, and we can only take on so many milligrams of anything. So
You should start with half a teaspoon. If that's too much, then just do a quarter, and after a few days, go up to a half.
I'll go with 1 milliliter.
Hold on, this is a powder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be measuring by milliliters, you'd be doing by grams. But realistically, practically, take a small teaspoon and do half of it. Start, and you can mix it in with water to have it straight. But if you find that's too hard to stomach, then you can add it to I was gonna say like a juice, but only if you're like juicing your own juices. Don't be drinking anything that you don't juice because that's poison for you. The other thing you can do is in a tea, but not a hot tea because that stuff is sensitive to heat. So you would want to let your tea cool down just to mask the flavor a bit. You can take like a rooibos or lemon tea that would probably help mask the flavor a bit. But you can try with water and see how you take that. Getting used to. Chlorella is easier to palate than spirulina, I can tell you that off the bat.
Yeah. Good stuff. What do you? Hmm.
Do you have any particular health goals or anything that you wanted to change in particular?
Hmm. I've moved towards the raw diet, and it feels great. But then I jumped off of it, kind of thing, and looking forward to being able to afford um, having it back. It is beautiful. So
Are you eating a raw diet right now?
not fully, but pretty much like no meat and kind of just dabbled within like the yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know.
be aware with eating strictly raw for a prolonged period of time. If toxicity exists within your body, it can give you unpleasant side effects. So if you start feeling that or noticing extreme changes that are beyond your change threshold, then don't think that you have to be in the raw food bandwagon, doing in cooked food. I also tell people it's more important that you eat a whole food, primarily plant-based diet above all else, rather than jumping on a raw food bandwagon or a vegan bandwagon. I remember months ago I went to an event here in neighboring city, and the theme was just vegan chefs kind of like preparing their foods and showing what they got, what they do, that kind of thing. And incidentally, by total coincidence or not, I sat down at a table to eat with the event organizer. I had no idea who the event organizer was. And I was like, oh, this is really kind of cool. I'd love to hear if you guys do another event like this. I'd like to participate. And and I started kind of like picking her brain a little bit about what else they were kind of championing, other than just because veganism is an extreme response to an extreme situation. And when I was asking her about, are you guys emphasizing, more like a holistic nutrition, organic, whole food kind of approach, or not? And what she said to me was quite disappointing because it's like, no, we're just preaching for the vegan thing, pretty much. And I found that to be disappointing because it's a very unenlightened way to take veganism. Because if you're eating vegan food, which basically just has no products in there, but you're eating crap, then you're still poisoning your body. It makes no difference.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for that because the grocery stores and whoever does food kind of thing, they'll just throw you some weird turkey bacon kind of thing that's weird.
Yeah, anything that tries to imitate meat,
Mhm.
honestly, stay away from it.
Yeah.
But most importantly, don't don't even look at the front cover of anything. Don't look at the pictures or anything. Go straight for the ingredients. This is the only thing you need to read is the ingredients list and familiarize yourself with what you see there. If you don't know what it is, chances are you shouldn't be eating it, or go find out what it is, and then find out why you shouldn't be eating it.
So if I can add on to the diet, for basically the past 6, 7 years, I've spent slowly just disintegrating what I would eat. Because when I used to be very stressed, I noticed a part of it was the food I was eating. Because I ate junk food. I didn't really eat like fast food, but I was eating chips and pizza, and it's not good. And so as I started to take those things out of my diet, I noticed that I was able to do things more. I felt more drive to do things. And it was just a complete uplifting experience. And so um, I had stopped eating meat for a couple of years, and I had noticed that I was having issues because of it. Because I learned that my body was having a craving for the meat, the actual nutrients from it. And I was completely ignoring my body, and in a way that caused stress, but I'm not sure how to describe it. But over the past maybe half a year, I've started to implement meat back into my diet, but nothing from before, because it's got to be from the wild. And I noticed that maybe every 3 months my body gets that craving to eat meat. And when I do, I have this completely different energy about me. It's not that. And this is like the biggest misconception, like that we have to eat meat all the time. It's almost dangerous for the body because our brain chemistry is made up to react to plants.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this. You're coming out extremely laggy. You're actually, most of what you're saying isn't really connecting.
Here, let me, I'll come back.
Yeah, that was happening with me too. It was like I couldn't hear.
Okay, so it wasn't him then.
Mm-mm.
Okay. He's back.
Hello.
I think it's the same.
Shoot.
Are you like downloading or uploading something major at the same time?
No, I just got my internet going.
Weird. Okay, well, talk loud, I guess.
Okay. So, many years ago, like pretty much about the time that I got out of high school, I stopped eating meat and any kind of dairy because part of it was because I don't like the abuse towards animals. And I could see how by eating the products, it affects you at a spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical level. Because when I was about 10, I stopped eating fast foods because there's a couple times where I'd eaten it and I felt outrageously sick and I couldn't explain it. But I knew that my body was saying no. And so, as I got rid of my diet, over the couple of years, I noticed that it was actually causing me more problems because I was avoiding my own body's meat. But it's not the eating meat, the nutrients that come from it. And so, over the past half year, I've started to implement back into my diet. And it's maybe once every 3 months I get a craving for it. And when I do that, it's like having a body hunger, almost. Because I refrain from eating, and then my body's getting this boost of energy in a different manner. And so, as I started to understand that, I was starting to go into what I should be doing. Because vegetarianism is unhealthy, but I enjoy it. Because it's got its own spirit. And what I like to do daily is have a bit of grass-fed butter, if you know about that. Because, like, just having the oil is good for the brain. Same thing with, like, MCT oil. coconut, which is something else I want to start getting into once I get back to working. Did you hear that?
Most of it.
Kinda,
Okay.
yeah. Just that you're good for you on ditching fast food. Like that stuff's nasty.
It wasn't easy.
I wanted to try that before, but I don't know which. I don't. Just like you said, it's unhealthy to a point, and I don't know what to replace the meat with and everything like that. What to, if
Okay.
that makes any
Let me
sense.
give you guys some practical how-tos in that department.
You
I
go.
mean, meat is notable for its, protein value. And I want to tell you guys, the role of protein in the body is it's not for energy. Our body's main need of energy is provided ideally by fats, which are stabilized fuel that don't give you quick sugar rushes, and carbohydrates is more like emergency fuel. Protein is primarily for building up and repairing the body and for DNA sequencing and all sorts of things, fancy things like that. And protein is found in lesser quantities in plant foods, but it's still there. You just have to be more creative. Rather than slap on a slice of steak, you're going to be combining various nuts and seeds and also grains and legumes. So you could do wild rice with lentils to create an ideal protein. I have nothing against consuming eggs. They are complete proteins. Ideally, you separate the egg yolk from the white and so you would cook the white, but the yellow you would eat it in its raw state or just add it on top of the cooked meal afterwards, because that way the healthy fats don't get denatured. In terms of nuts and seeds, you really want to switch them up because they all have different profiles. In terms of, proteins is just it's a word for that's the catch-all word for amino acids, which there are 21. I can't remember exactly how many there are. Anyways, some of those your body can't produce, so you need to get them from your diet. And so when it comes to nuts and seeds, you can switch up everything from almonds to walnuts, cashews in smaller amounts, and then seeds play out. Pumpkin seeds are really high in protein. Chia seeds, flax seeds, and the thing is to make these more usable by the body and to minimize their anti-nutrient natural preservative that is basically what protects it and is makes it able to last for as long as it does is because it's really well protected by its own natural design. But those protectors are irritable to our bodies. So to deactivate those, you have to mimic nature's process, which means you have to sprout them. So you would leave your nuts and seeds soaking in water overnight, let's say, generally speaking, to use whatever you would want to use the next day. So rather than spending an hour cooking the meal, you just spend an hour the day before preparing them, for the soaking process, and then you drain them and rinse them the next day, and you go ahead and use them. This brings out not only eliminates a lot of the natural inhibitors that are protecting the seed or the nut, but at the same time, you're also bringing it to life. You're telling it to start to grow, and that life energy is then going to be used by you when you eat it. Another wonderful source, and this is also where you mix it up, might be more complicated for most people if you don't get into the habit of actually sprouting things, whether you're using water or soil, but doing things like sunflower sprouts, pea sprouts, buckwheat sprouts, quinoa sprouts. There's so many things you can sprout. And just diversifying and switching it up what you do, because sprouts are a plant-based source of complete proteins as well, full of life, and very nurturing and cleansing for the body. So those are some ideas in a sort of general sense. can feel free to zero in on any more specific questions around that if you like.
Joel, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you how old are you?
32, chronologically.
Are you in the health field?
Holistic nutrition, if I was going to give myself a title.
You sound like it.
Well, you
You're
know,
being smart. You ought to give yourself enough credit. You ought to give yourself credit for that.
well, it's just I don't really care for titles. To be honest, I have like 3 classes or so left before I fully finish the program. But I was dabbling and had an interest in learning about these things when I went on my rocket journey over 3 years ago. Before I went to school, and then learning from my quote mistakes. There were mistakes, there were experiences though. I learned that you can just do things foolishly, blindly, or you can learn a little bit about what you're doing. And then as I was doing this, I realized, holy shit, there's way too much technicality in here, and this science isn't really my preferred language at all. I appreciate what it brings forward, but then I also learned through my program and other courses that I've done in other fields of study that I've dabbled in that there's the whole energetic aspect of it, which does not speak the science of language, the language of science. Now, science is slowly catching up in some regards, but to understand things on an intuitive level, to understand things on a bioenergetic level, was a language that made more sense to me. So, I can, without knowing the scientific properties of anything, I can use muscle testing, preparation and muscle testing as a methodology to determine whether something would be helpful for me or not. And I could use that same process for someone else as well, using their own body or using my own body remotely. It's not the kind of thing that science is going to tell you exactly how that's working. I can't tell you how it's working. It's just, it's a tool. A tool among many.
You don't have to tell me how it's working.
Yeah, we've got to learn to trust ourselves.
Yeah, no kidding. That's been something that's been going on with me for maybe the past while, or maybe something that I'm now trying to really making some really good steps, just not giving up or not that, but just when I've got oh, I should go do something kind of feeling, it's like, all right, go kind of thing. It's not hesitate anymore, because I've been hesitating over the littlest things, oh, I don't know if I should eat this or that kind of thing or whatnot. And now it's gone to this ridiculous where it's just too much anxiety over the littlest things that I don't know. Now that I'm just going for things, it makes it a lot better. I feel better about it, and yeah, that's random. Yeah.
It's like describing the being in the flow versus being in resistance.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Being in this little Google Hangout is pretty awesome. I don't hang out with too many really good, not giving up or not that, but just when I've got oh, I should go do something kind of feeling, it's all right.
They just everyone's on mute.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're the only one I can hear actually.
I'm back.
Hey.
Well, what just happened there?
Well, I was hearing my voice play back to me through your guys' computers, so I was I just shut mine off for a second.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's maybe what was happening earlier with Indigo.
Yeah, because I could hear that going on with yours, Mark.
Do you have a Pac-Man shirt on? You have that's Pac-Man, isn't it?
Indeed, I do.
Nice.
Cool.
I was rocking an old Super Mario Brothers 3 T-shirt the other day when I was making a video for YouTube, and I was like, "Oh wow, I didn't realize I was like wearing my PJs." I was like,
Well, actually, there's one thing. Joel, you do got to give yourself a little bit of credit because you're very fluent with your knowledge of nutrition and stuff. And, like, that was one of the things that I came to find as I was exploring vegetarianism, is like getting into legumes and all the types of seeds and nuts. Because, like, one thing that was really good was I got this protein powder, if you can see it.
I see it.
Yeah, this one, phenomenal. I love it.
And there's so many out there in the market, and this is maybe a good one for to reference to Mark if he's listening right now, since he seems to be attentive to these things. If you ever go looking for a protein powder, that's just where you're going to find a lot of crap in particular. So
Yeah, I noticed that already.
Generally speaking, stick with something simple, organic, hemp. If nothing else, just that.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah.
There's a. I don't know the brand, but it's just hemp seeds, and I love them. They're just shelled, and you get a big bag of them, and you can just eat them out of the bag or just mix them into your stuff or whatnot. But
yeah, those are the hemp parts. Those are
that's it.
Not the protein extracted from them. It's the complete thing, which is an amazing food. You can literally add it to cereal blends. You can add it to soups. You can add it to salads. You can add it to anything, and it's got a subtle nutty flavor to it. And it's great because it's such a complete food. Like, is there anything cannabis can't do, or the cannabis plant can't do? It's got all the essential fatty acids the body needs. It has all the essential amino acids the body needs. It has, what else does it have? I'm missing something here. It's good. Eat it.
Omegas. I think maybe is what you were thinking if you didn't say that, is the omega-3s and stuff.
Yeah, those are the essential fatty acids.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
And it's good because they're essential fatty acids, while they're very much needed for the body, they're very sensitive. And it's nice to be able to get them from whole foods as opposed to just oils, because they are so easily damaged. Then you could be eating an oil that's rancid. So you only, like I tell people, it's probably good, awesome to like have a supplement of flax oil with like algae oil mixed in, perhaps every day, like a spoon of it. But buy like the small bottles. Don't buy the big bottles. Every time you open it, that's oxidative damage happening right there. So, and hemp oil is also a nice one, not nearly as sensitive. Austrian pumpkin seed oil is very high in minerals. Oh yeah, that's the other thing too. I forgot to mention, and this was I discovered later into my ventures with food and nutrition. It was spices, and dried spices, fresh spices, and herbs used for culinary stuff as well as for teas and decoctions, because these things are incredibly alkalizing to the body, full of minerals, and on top of that, they've all got unique compounds that this is like an entire library of encyclopedias onto what herbs and spices can do for different medicinal needs. But even for culinary needs, this is just a nice thing to have. Is literally like in your fridge, clear out one of your little compartments on your door and just give yourself like at least 15, maybe that's not expectations, but at least 10 different organic spices, organic or well crafted spices, whether they're in their powdered form or just kind of dried, broken up forms that you can play with, so that when you're creating vegetarian meals, you can use like the same basic ingredients and play around with your different spices to get different flavor profiles each time, and you can keep your food fresh and creative. And there's so many that I can throw off the top of my head, but I'm not going to bother unless anyone wants to hear it.
I'm
Actually,
interested.
Well, I'm getting sleepy. I don't know about anybody else, but I'll talk to you guys later, okay?
Nice
okay.
talking to
Thank
you,
you for
Angela.
joining us today, Angela.
Peace. Love you.
Well, here, because the other thing I use is Brad King's Wild Greens. If you've heard of it.
I think I've heard of it at some point along my path.
Okay. Well, what caught me with it was like it's got different types of mushrooms in it, and like it's awesome. Like it's got it's all organic, and it's got barley grass powder, alfalfa grass powder, a mushroom powder blend, which is cordyceps, red reishi, nin chang chi, not sure how to pronounce it, him, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, lion's mane, and maitake. And yeah, and then there's like wheatgrass, oatgrass, apple fiber, kale powder, peppermint leaf powder, parsley, and there's like rhubarb, dandelions, cleavers, shepherd's purse, male fern, sea buckthorn juice powder, and Schisandra berry powder extract.
Schisandra berry. Yeah, that's an adaptogenic berry. That's
Yeah.
I knew that I've crossed that before because that is a very impressive line of ingredients because not only are there no fillers in there and everything being clean, presumably, being organic or wild crafted. These things are, you know, when they're getting from the sprouts or the grass forms, the grasses are just like the sprout of a grain of some sort. This is where prime nutrition is at, and then you just harvest that and dry it out, put it into powder form, and give that to your body. So the only thing you're kind of missing, I guess it's two things, is you're missing the hydration factor, which you could do if you're like putting that into a smoothie or a liquid of some kind. And the other thing is it's not its original form full of live life force. But presuming that they have done it under low heat preparation, then its enzyme activity would potentially have been retained, which is great. So that's an amazing powder right there.
It's actually raw. It says 100% wild raw.
Yeah. Sometimes when they make claims like that, they often say not processed above 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Because there isn't actually any regulation saying what temperature is actually considered raw. There's just this sort of general consensus that anything below 118 degrees Fahrenheit is considered raw. Some people will go 115 and like just go, oh, I don't really give a shit. Just either have it raw or have it cut.
That's a good point. And like when I have this, I love it. Like it makes such a difference. And like the other part of what I do is like this mixture I've got. I grind up almonds, cashews, pecans, and walnuts, and then I grind up chia seeds, flax seeds. I buy also pumpkin seeds. And then I throw in turmeric powder, cinnamon, nutmeg. I throw in hemp powder. That's pretty much it.
In other words, you made
And,
your
like-
own protein, EFA enriched protein powder.
Yeah. And like I basically throw all of that together in my smoothies, and that's what's kept me healthy.
Yeah, man. It's give yourself the body what it needs, and it doesn't need junk food. Junk food is not food; it's junk. I'm drinking my own urine right now. I don't think it gets any more natural than that. Well, I don't know what's going on. I hear like bathroom toilets flushing or something in the background, and no one's talking.
So, what else can we talk about? Nice.
Anything you want?
I want to know. I want to get some like food ideas so I can like, because right now when I go to the grocery store, I look at all the fruits and vegetables, and right away, if like everything's from like America, and I don't, I want to like get away from America shopping just because of the all the fluoride or all that kind of into it. Like I'm trying to get like Europe stuff or where they don't have um, fluoride or whatever it's called in their water.
Okay, you're talking about water or food here?
Both. Well, like no, just buying food that because you want to eat the fruits and vegetables kind of thing, but that's hard to do, or that's hard for me to do because I don't want to buy the American stuff because it's all grown improperly kind of thing. It's
It doesn't
all
matter where you're getting it from, if it's from America or Mexico or somewhere else, in terms of that, because if it's coming from a distance, the only really distinguishing factor at that point is if organically grown or is it conventionally grown, or more rarely is it wild crafted, which you're not going to find in regular supermarkets or grocery stores. Um, Eating fruits and vegetables, even if they're not organic, is still obviously a step up from eating something that's in a package.
yeah, no doubt.
But those are your choices really. Is start to buy only organic foods and or begin to learn, if you have an interest in this, about